Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into BigBear.AI, ticker BBAI, focusing on its sharp jump from about $3 on March 20th, 2025, up to roughly $8.22 early in July, only to drop back down to $6.40 to end that same month. That's more than a double in 4 months. I want to explore what happened, especially the burst between June 23rd and mid-July, and why I remain confident this rally isn't over.
Before we go any further, tell me how you're feeling about Big Bear AI. Do you think the run's over? Do you think there's more to grow? Do you think this made 10 times your money over the next couple years? Let me know down below.
In March, BBAI was trading near $3. By the end of July, it hit about $6.40, more than a 100% gain. It wasn't steady growth. The big burst happened around June 23rd to July 17th, when the stock climbed rapidly. That created a classic short squeeze setup. Short sellers forced to cover their positions, boosting momentum.
In March, BBAI was trading for nearly $3. Me personally, I'd already accumulated most of the shares that I wanted. I was part of the last rally when it shot up to about $10, and I had bought in at $1.50, $1.50 and $2.50, something like that. And I basically watched this thing crash all the way down to $6, which is when I sold. My thought is, if I can get this back at 150 or even two one more time, I'm going to do it. But it never went that low. It always stopped around 4 and 5 and kept bouncing around. And then I told myself, I'm not going to miss this next rally, this next jump. So if it hits 3, if I can get it back at 3 one more time, I will buy all the shares I want. And I was able to do that right around this time. But if you've been following the stock, it's all the way up to 640. So that's more than double your money. But there really was a big burst that happened between around June 23rd and July 17th. I believe this may have been created by a few things, but one of them is this was a classic short squeeze setup. Short sellers were forced to sell to cover their positions, boosting momentum. This can really only happen when there's sustained growth and a number is able to jump such a large amount. And if you're like me, this was great for your position. I'm personally not mad at the folks that wanted to short this particular stock. It made a lot of sense. If you look back just a few months ago, we basically had a very similar setup, and it's the one I just described. This stock was trading for like $1.50 to $2.50 for a long time, and then shot all the way up to 10. So seeing it doing something similar this time, it's got to be it's got to ring some bells in people's heads saying, well, it's just going to happen again. It's just going to go back down. These runs aren't real. They're not sustainable. So I understand why people were short. But shorting 25 to 27% is quite high. And this is one of the reasons you don't necessarily want to do that. Because if you can just get some sustained growth, some good news, things like that, you can be destroyed. And it starts an avalanche that keeps going. The higher it goes, the more people try to short because they think it's going to go back down. And as it blows through those numbers, all those people have to sell and cover their shares, which just makes the stock go higher. The good news is if you're into Big Bear AI for the long term, that it's not just all hype. In June, it formed a partnership with Analogic to roll out its pendulum biometric and threat detect solutions across the United States and international airports. I personally have seen Big Bear at airports myself. It's really the main reason I started looking into the stock a second time. I think I had a few shares, like I said, I bought in around the 150. I saw it in the airport, happened to kind of spin the block, if you will. Saw it was at 250, saw it at the airport, and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy more shares. I believe this may actually be something that's a little bit bigger than what I thought. And when I saw all of the different things they were doing to protect the borders, including this latest administration, which is all about borders, I said, this is something that probably cannot lose. Big Bear also announced a strategic partnership with the UAE to commercialize AI tech in the Middle East and the new Department of Defense contracts covering fleet management systems and geopolitical risk models. Anything that kind of sounds like that, you're doing business with the government, you're doing business even outside of the US, that means this company really has no shortfalls. This is something that the only thing that's really stopping them is themselves. And a little nice little icing on the cake is they have contracts for $385 million of backlog orders. So basically, they already have $385 million in the bank essentially that they just need to execute on, and that'll be revenue growth of maybe 100 to 200 million by 2026. Now you might be thinking, this all sounds a little too good to be true. Like, what's wrong with the stock? Why is the stock as low as it is? Why has it been trading at $1 to $3 to $6? Why isn't it like $20, $50? Why isn't it like Palantir up in the hundreds? Well, the answer to that is actually pretty simple. The company is still unprofitable. Now, don't want to necessarily scare you with that because most companies, when they start out, are unprofitable. It takes time to even things out to get enough constant business in to offset all your expenses. And that's basically what they're going through. But with that 385 that I mentioned previously, that's going to give them enough business to basically keep things going for quite a while until they find their sweet spot. And maybe one day be like Palantir because they are in the same type of business, but they're just doing some different areas in it. As of Q1 2025, they're showing an adjusted EBITDA of losses around $7 million, which is actually worse than the previous year. So they're kind of going in the wrong direction in that one category. They've had slow revenue growth, which is about 5% year over year as of Q1, generating about $34.8 million. That's actually one of the biggest hits against BigBear.AI is all these other companies had giant growths, mainly just because of their dealings with AI. Some of it was FOMO, some of it is just the trend. But Big Bear really didn't get that. For whatever reason, they never really got their share of all of that. But one thing I do like about it is their business growth and the things that's been going on with the stocks. It seems more organic to me, not counting the recent short squeezes. If you ask something like Chat GTP what it feels, well, if you ask something like Chat GTP how it feels about a stock like Big Bear, one thing that it will point out is analysts are fearing that the slow growth or slowing growth and dilution could leave the upside capped. And there's some questions on projections as far as about $21 a share being unrealistic unless they can accelerate that growth. So not only do they need to execute on the backlog of business, they need to make sure they're still getting more. And they are still landing contracts and doing things like that that will help. But they also need to ramp up what they're able to put out there so they can ramp up more orders that they can take. If you didn't earlier, I really would appreciate a like, maybe a comment below. It all helps. Anything. You could even say my voice sounds stupid. Any comment helps. Anyway, so I don't make this too long, but I wanted to kind of close this one out by saying that despite the headwinds, this is kind of why I'm still bullish on this stock, right? The short squeezes were definitely a catalyst that allowed for some good movement. It got Big Bear on a lot of news and a lot of different websites, all talking about Big Bear. Like, where did the stock come? Why is it jumping? Oh, yeah, it also has the AI. It's kind of like a hidden gem in that way. The people that know, they knew. But the people that don't know, you kind of don't want them to get in for the wrong reason because it's just like now, the stock pulls back a little bit. What's going to happen to all those people? They're just going to run. If they don't care about the stock, they don't know about it. That's not really doing the long-term investors any favors. Doesn't hurt, but it's definitely good to keep the real people inside. Their contract momentum is real. Airport deployments, MOUs in the UAE, major Department of Defense awards, they show urgency for the national security with AI. Like I said earlier, with this particular administration, doing business in this area is always going to be shined on. It's always going to have a place. And with Trump and a lot of these other people talking about what they're talking about all the time, a company like Big Bear can definitely stand out. It's kind of like during the last administration when there was a lot of focus on what solar and power and renewable energies and stuff like that. A lot of those companies made a lot of money, but once that changes, you never know. But one thing we do know is the government's always spending more money on security and protecting borders and trying to control things, and that's part of what this company does. Another catalyst to me is Palantir. Now, like I said a little earlier, they are kind of in the same area where they're both analyzing data and helping people to understand what they're doing with it, but they are not doing the exact same business. But it's close enough that when Palantir does good, people look at Big Bear as, well, this company should also do this. This company should also get up to $100 a share at some point. So as long as Palantir is doing good, Palantir is essentially paving a way or a path for Big Bear to also grow and for people to understand that this company can do what that company does. They're just not there yet. And the last really major thing is that backlog. The backlog of $385 million in contracts. If that can convert to $200 million by 2026, that's going to improve their margins. It's going to improve their valuation. And a lot of that stuff really will help the price. When people understand the numbers and the numbers start to make more sense, more people will jump in. So I don't think it's merely a short squeeze why it was able to get up as high as it is. And I can't even truly promise that the stock will stay in the sixes as it has been doing, but it's definitely a good sign because it could have dropped out all the way back to 3 by now. This has been a few months now. So here's what I'm watching next, right? Q2 2025, they're doing the earnings on August 11th. So that's about 7 days from now. They're either going to do one or two things. They're either going to show an accelerated revenue or they're going to show more losses. Whichever one of those happens, the stock will react accordingly, more than likely. There's going to be some more developments in the UAE with that new partnership, and they should technically put out some new defense contracts or infrastructure contracts. So we'll see on that. But that can also affect the stock immensely. So bottom line, I'm long on Big Bear AI. I don't think that the recent rally is completely done, but a lot of the things that really accelerated it may be done. I don't know if more shorts will pop in there that we can get a second round of this, but a lot of people will probably hang off at least until the 11th once we get the revenue numbers, the EBITDA numbers, all that kind of stuff. And if Big Bear can actually execute, because that's really what this all comes down to, I think this could be a really good one to multiply your money. There's almost no reason that at some point they can't be like Palantir. If you can buy now at $6, $7, even $10, and it gets up to 100, that's 10 times your money. So why not? In case you didn't know, I's a hobo. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, also because everybody says it on YouTube and it must be like a legal thing, not financial advice.